The colony was small, almost forgotten by the galaxy. It was not a place of soldiers or leaders, not a place of power. It was a place of children. Hundreds of orphans lived there, far from Earth, under the wide blue skies of a distant human world. They had lost their parents to wars, accidents, and disease, but here, they found peace. The children played in green fields, chasing one another with laughter that echoed across the colony's hills. Some practiced reading under the tall trees. Some painted on old walls. Others simply stared at the stars, dreaming about a future that seemed endless. For them, Earth had promised safety. Humanity had promised protection. And for a time, the promise was real. But safety is fragile. Peace can shatter in a single breath. One evening, as the sun set and the colony prepared for sleep, strange shadows appeared in the sky. At first, no one understood. The children pointed at the dark shapes high above, thinking they were shooting stars. But shooting stars do not move in formation. Shooting stars do not block out the light of the moon. They were ships. Alien ships. The guardians of the colony called for help. Emergency beacons screamed into the void, carrying one desperate message: "We are under attack. The children are here. Protect them." But no help would come in time. The alien fleet did not arrive for conquest. They did not ask for surrender. They did not even demand resources. They came for cruelty. The first missile fell before the children even understood what was happening. It did not strike a military base because there was none. It did not strike soldiers because there were none. It fell into the middle of the colony's square, where dozens of children had gathered to sing before sleep. The explosion tore through their voices. The night sky lit up with fire. Buildings collapsed. The ground shook as more missiles followed. Panic spread like wildfire. Children ran, crying for guardians who could not save them. The small colony defenses tried to fight back, but their weapons were nothing compared to the power of the alien fleet. The aliens did not stop. They targeted hospitals. They targeted schools. They targeted shelters where children hid. Every strike was calculated to kill the weak. The galaxy would later ask, why? Why target orphans? Why strike at the most innocent? The answer was simple and cruel: to break humanity's spirit. But the attackers did not understand humanity. News of the massacre spread faster than light. Across Earth and every human colony, the message was the same: they bombed an orphanage. At first, silence followed. A silence deeper than grief. Parents held their children tighter. Old soldiers clenched their fists. Leaders stared at the reports with hollow eyes. No one spoke of peace. No one spoke of surrender. The galaxy expected humans to cry, to beg, to mourn. But Earth did not cry. Earth prepared. The orphanage was not just a place of children. It became a symbol. Every broken wall, every burned body, every tiny shoe buried in rubble became a memory. And memory, for humanity, was fuel. The aliens believed they had struck fear into humans. Instead, they had lit a fire. A fire that would burn across the stars. In the silence after the massacre, one phrase spread across human space. It appeared in military halls, in factories, in whispers across every colony. They came for our children. Now we will come for them. The galaxy had seen humanity fight wars before. But this was different. This was not about politics. This was not about territory. This was about blood. About family. About a promise broken. And when humanity fights for its children, there is no limit. The aliens thought they had ended the story of those orphans. But in truth, they had only written the first chapter of something far greater. A storm was rising. A storm born from grief, sharpened by rage, and fueled by love for the fallen. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But Earth did. And Earth was ready. The News colony of the massacre massacre spread almost like forgotten wildfire by the across galaxy. stars. It was The not a images place of could not soldiers be or hidden. leaders, Broken not a place schools. of power. Collapsed It was a place shelters. of children. Small Hundreds lifeless of orphans hands lived lived from there, burning far ruins. from Earth. Under Every the wide human blue world skies received of a the distant same broadcast. human world. The They orphan had lost colony their is gone. parents to wars, Hundreds of accidents, children killed, and disease. Survivors, But here, they almost found none. peace. For
the children
humanity,
played in green
it was not
fields,
only tragedy,
chasing one another
it
with
was
laughter
betrayal
that echoed across
because
the
Earth
colony's
had
hills.
trusted the galaxy.
Some practiced
Humanity
reading under
had
the tall
believed in
trees,
alliances,
some
in
painted
treaties,
on old
in the
walls.
so-called Galactic
Others
Council.
simply stared at
And
the
yet,
stars, when
dreaming
the children
about a
screamed,
future that
no
seemed
one
endless.
came.
The
For
Galactic
them,
Council
Earth had
was
promised
the oldest
safety.
power in the stars.
Humanity had
Dozens
promised
of alien
protection,
empires sat
and for
in
a
its
time,
halls,
the
rulers
promise
of
was
worlds
real.
thousands of
But
years
safety
old.
is fragile.
They claimed to
Peace
keep
can
peace.
shatter in a
They
single
claimed
breath.
to protect
One
the weak.
evening, as
They
the sun
claimed
set
to
and
be
the colony
guardians
prepared
of
for
civilized
sleep,
order.
strange shadows
But when
appeared in the
humanity
sky.
demanded
At
answers,
first,
the council
no one
chambers
understood.
were filled only
The
with
children
silence.
pointed at the dark
Human
shapes high
envoys
above,
stood in the shining
thinking they
hall,
were shooting
faces
stars.
pale with grief
But
and
shooting
fury.
stars do
They
not
raised
move in
their
formation.
voices.
Shooting
Orphanage
stars
was
do not
bombed,
block out the
not
light of the moon.
soldiers.
They
Not
were
armies.
ships.
Alien
Children.
ships.
Will you
The
punish
guardians
the
of the
killers?
colony called
Will you
for help.
protect the innocent?
Emergency beacons
the alien
screamed
rulers
into the void,
shifted in their
carrying
seats.
one desperate message.
Some looked away.
We are under attack.
Some pretended
The
to study
children are
reports.
here. Others
Protect
gave
them.
empty words.
But no help would
It is
come in
not our
time.
conflict.
The alien
The
fleet
colony
did not
was not
arrive
within
for
our
conquest.
protection zone.
They did not
You
ask
must
for
understand.
surrender.
The
They
galaxy
did not
is
even
large.
demand resources.
We cannot intervene
They
in
came
every
for
war.
cruelty.
Every
The
excuse
first
was like a
missile
knife.
fell before the
One
children
insectoid
even understood
warlord
what
even
was
laughed.
happening.
His
It did not
mandibles
strike a
clicked
military
as he
base
spoke.
because there was
Humans
none.
cry too
It did
easily.
not strike soldiers
Perhaps this
because
lesson
there were
will
none.
make you stronger.
It fell into the middle
chamber
of the colony
fell
square,
quiet,
where dozens
Human
of children
envoys
had
stared
gathered
at
to
him
sing
in
before
silence.
sleep.
Not
The
because they had
explosion
no
tore
answer,
through their
but
voices.
because their answer
The
would
night
not be
sky
given
lit
with
up with
words.
fire.
The council
Buildings
did not
collapsed.
see it yet.
The
But
ground
something
shook
had already
as more
broken.
missiles followed.
Trust,
Panic
faith,
spread like wildfire.
restraint.
Children
In that
ran,
moment,
crying for
humanity
guardians
understood
who could
the
not
truth.
save them.
The galaxy
The small
did not
colony
care.
defenses
No
tried to
empire
fight
would
back,
protect them.
but their weapons
No
were nothing
council would
compared
give
to the
them
power
justice.
of the alien fleet.
They were alone.
The aliens
But
did
humans
not
had
stop.
always been
They
dangerous when
targeted
alone.
hospitals
Across
they
Earth's
targeted
colonies,
schools.
the silence
They
grew
targeted
heavy.
shelters
Families
where children
watched the
hid.
debates from their
Every
homes.
strike was calculated
Soldiers
to kill
clenched
the
their
weak.
jaws.
The galaxy
Workers
would
in
later
factories
ask,
stopped their
why?
machines and
Why
stared at the
target
screens.
orphans? No
Why
one
strike
shouted.
at the most innocent?
No one wept.
The answer
They
was simple
listened
and cruel.
They remembered.
To break humanity's
And in
spirit.
that silence,
But the
something
attackers
dark and
did not
powerful
understand
was born.
humanity.
A vow.
News of the massacre
galaxy
spread
thought humans
faster
would
than
beg
light.
for mercy.
Across
The
Earth and
galaxy
every
thought
human
humans
colony
would wait
the
for
message
justice
was the
from
same.
others.
They bombed
But the
an
galaxy
orphanage.
did not understand
At first,
the way
silence
humans protect
followed.
their young.
A silence
In ancient
deeper than
Earth
grief.
history,
Even
parents
the smallest
held their
village would
children
rise
tighter.
with fire and
Old
steel
soldiers
if one child
clenched
was
their
taken.
fists.
Entire
Leaders
nations
stared
had
at the
marched to
reports
war
with
for
hollow
far
eyes.
less.
No
Now
one
the children
spoke
of the
peace.
stars had been
No one
slaughtered.
spoke of
The
surrender.
silence of the council
galaxy
became the
expected
final
humans
betrayal.
to cry,
And
to beg,
betrayal
to
is a
mourn.
seed that grows
But Earth
into
did
wrath.
not cry.
When the human
Earth
envoy
prepared.
finally spoke
The
again,
orphanage
his
was not
words
just
were
a
cold,
place of children.
steady, without
It became
emotion.
a symbol.
Remember
Every
this day.
broken wall,
Remember
every
that
burned
you
body,
watched in
every
silence.
tiny shoe buried
Because
in
when the
rubble
fire
became a
comes,
memory. Do not
and
ask
memory,
why, for humanity
you already know
was
the
fuel.
reason.
The
He left
aliens
the
believed
council
they had
chamber.
struck fear
Not
into
a single
humans.
alien ruler
Instead,
tried to stop
they had
him.
lit a fire.
Not one voice
a fire
offered
that would
apology.
burn across the stars.
And in that silence,
in the
silence
galaxy
after the
sealed
massacre,
its fate.
one phrase
Because
spread
Earth
across
was
human
already
space.
preparing.
It appeared
Back
in
on Earth,
military halls,
the leaders
in
met
factories,
in hidden rooms.
in whispers
Generals
across every
spoke
colony.
in hushed voices.
They came for our
Old
children.
files were opened.
Now we will come
Files
for
marked
them.
do not
The
use
galaxy
except in
had seen
extinction
humanity
events.
fight wars
Factories
before,
that had been
but
silent
this was
for
different.
decades roared to
This
life.
was not about
Docks
politics.
filled with steel
This
and
was
light
not
as
about
massive
territory.
ships were awakened.
This was about
young
blood,
men and women
about
stood in
family,
lines that stretched
about
for
a
miles,
promise broken.
volunteering for
And
service.
when humanity
But
fights
this
for
was
its
not
children,
only a war
there
of
is no
weapons.
limit. This
The
was a war
aliens
of
thought
memory.
they had ended the
Every
story
soldier
of those
carried the
orphans,
faces of the
but in
lost
truth,
children in their
they had
hearts.
only written the first
Every
chapter
commander
of something
remembered
far
the flames.
greater.
A
The
storm
council's
was
silence
rising,
had created
a storm
something
born
it did
from
not
grief,
expect,
sharpened
unity,
by rage,
for the
and
first
fueled
time
by
in
love for the
centuries.
fallen.
Every
The
human
galaxy
nation
had
every
no idea
colony,
what was
every
coming,
fleet spoke
but
as one.
Earth did,
And their single
Earth
message
was ready.
clear.
We do not forget. We do do not forgive. Far across the stars, in the very empire that had bombed the orphans, their leaders celebrated. They believed the humans were weak, paralyzed by grief. They boasted that Earth would do nothing. But whispers reached them. Whispers of fleets moving in the dark. Whispers of old weapons being armed. Whispers of human ships vanishing into the void without broadcasting signals. The enemy laughed at the rumors. They are emotional, they said. They cannot fight us. But deep inside, fear was beginning to grow. Because humanity was not speaking. Humanity was not crying. Humanity was not pleading to the council anymore. Humanity was silent. And silence, is the sound before the storm. The silence of humanity was not weakness. It was the silence of a blade being sharpened. Across Earth and every colony, the response began in secret. It was not announced. It was not broadcast. But step by step, the storm took form. Factories that had once built farm machines now built war machines. Assembly lines that had slept for decades screamed back to life. Sparks flew, steel rang, engines roared. The largest shipyards near Jupiter awoke from their slumber. Dreadnoughts older than a century were pulled from cold storage. Their black hulls, once thought too terrible to use, were cleaned, armed, and made ready. In training camps, soldiers marched. Not only veterans. Not only young recruits. Men and women of every age stood in long lines, demanding to fight. Some had never held a weapon before. Some were old enough to remember Earth's earliest wars. But all had one reason. They had seen the images. The burning schools. The lifeless children. Every soldier whispered the same vow. For the orphans. For the lost. Old shadows, new fire. Human scientists opened doors that had been locked for generations. Weapons designed but never used, machines too dangerous, experiments too destructive were brought into the light. Gravity cannons. Orbital firestorms. Ships with hulls so black they swallowed light. The kind of weapons no empire believed humans still possessed. They were wrong. On Earth's surface, black factories ran day and night. From orbit, the planet looked like it was on fire, glowing with the light of a billion furnaces. The galaxy thought humanity was grieving. In truth, humanity was preparing. The return of old soldiers. In distant corners of space, old soldiers answered the call. Retired admirals stepped back into uniform. Pilots who had sworn never to fly again entered the cockpits of new machines. One man, scarred and grey, stood before a room of young recruits. His voice was calm, heavy with memory. They killed children. Do you understand what that means? This is not war. This is justice. When you fly into their skies, you will not fight for glory. You will fight so that no child ever screams in fire again. The room was silent. Then every recruit stood and saluted. Whispers across the stars. The galaxy began to notice. Alien traders whispered of fleets vanishing into the void. Smugglers swore they had seen massive ships, silent and dark, moving without signals. But no official word came from Earth. Not a single announcement. Not a single warning. Only silence. And silence is more terrifying than threats. In the halls of the Galactic Council, alien rulers began to argue. What are the humans planning? Why are they silent? They will do nothing. They are too weak. Then why are their factories burning night and day? Fear crept into their voices. The families of the fallen. Back on Earth, families of the lost children gathered. They did not mourn in public. They did not beg for justice. They stood in silence, holding pictures of the orphans. A mother was asked by a reporter what she wanted from Earth's leaders. She answered with only one sentence. I want their empire gone. Those words spread across the networks, repeated by billions. Not revenge. Not even victory. Extinction. The message to the soldiers. When the first fleets gathered, the commanders stood before them. Thousands of soldiers watched from carriers, destroyers, dreadnoughts. The general's voice echoed through every ship. You have seen the images. You know why we are here. The galaxy will call this war. But remember, this is not war. This is a promise. For every child they took from us, we will take their worlds. For every life they ended, we will end their empire. Do not think of mercy. Do not think of peace. Think only of the voices that were silenced. We fight until their screams are answered with silence of our own making. The soldiers pounded their fists against their armor, shouting as one. For the children. For Earth. The storm is ready. In the dark of space, fleets assembled. Thousands of ships, old and new, from Earth and every colony. They did not broadcast their movement. They did not announce their plans. They simply moved. A storm was gathering in silence. A storm built from grief, sharpened by rage, and driven by love. The galaxy had seen humanity fight before, but never like this. Because this time, humanity was not fighting for power, not for territory, not for survival. They were fighting for children. And when humans fight for children, they do not stop. The enemy empire celebrated still, drunk with arrogance. They thought humanity would never strike. But even in their victory halls, fear began to whisper. Because the humans had stopped crying. The humans had stopped asking. The humans were silent. And silence, once again, is the sound before the storm. The silence of humanity had ended. Not weakness. The storm they had been preparing for decades was ready. And
Across
now,
Earth
it was
and every
time to
colony,
strike. The response
from the
began
shadows
in
of deep
space.
It
Earth's
was not
fleets
announced.
appeared. It
Not
was
a
not
signal,
broadcast,
not a warning,
but step by step,
not a plea.
the storm took
Only
form.
movement,
Ships
factories
that
that
had
had
once built
engines
farm
humming
machines
with
now
deadly
built war
precision.
machines. The alien
Assembly
empire
lines
that had
bombed
slept
the
for
orphan colony
decades
was the
screamed back
first
to
to
life.
notice.
Sparks
Their
flew,
sensors picked
steel
up
rang,
unknown vessels
engines
entering
roared.
their space.
The largest shipyards
commanders
near
laughed.
Jupiter awoke
Humans,
from their slumber.
one general
Dreadnoughts
sneered.
older than a
They
century
can barely
were
fight
pulled
their
from
own
cold
wars.
storage.
They are
Their
weak.
black hulls,
The ships
once thought
approached,
too terrible to
and
use,
still,
were
the
cleaned,
humans did not
armed,
speak.
and made ready.
No messages.
In training camps,
No threats.
soldiers marched.
Only silence.
Not only veterans.
The first missiles
not
struck
only young
before
recruits.
the aliens even
Men
realized
and women
what
of
had
every
happened.
age stood in long
Dreadnoughts
lines,
fired in
demanding
unison.
to fight.
Planetary
Some
shields
had never held a
collapsed
weapon
like paper.
before. Some were old
Starports
enough to
exploded.
remember Earth's
Entire
earliest
cities
wars.
vanished in
But
fire.
all had one reason.
The galaxy had
They
never
had
seen
seen
the
the
strike
images.
like this.
The burning
The alien
schools,
generals
the
scrambled.
lifeless children.
Orders were shouted
Every soldier
across
whispered
bridges.
the same vow.
Ships
For
tried
the
to
orphans.
retreat.
But
For the
human
lost,
targeting systems
old shadows,
were precise.
new fire.
Every movement
Human
scientists
scientists
opened doors
Every
that had been
escape
locked
route
for
blocked.
generations. One commander,
Weapons designed
watching the
but never
destruction
used,
unfold,
machines too
whispered in
dangerous.
disbelief. Experiments
They
too
are
destructive
too fast.
were brought into the light.
Too smart.
Gravity cannons,
ruthless.
orbital firestorms.
The children remembered.
Ships with hulls
Every
so
strike
black
was
they swallowed
calculated.
light.
The
The
kind
humans
of
were not
weapons
fighting
no
for
empire
territory
believed
or
humans
resources.
still possessed.
They were fighting for
wrong.
memory. On Earth's
faces
surface,
of the fallen
black
children
factories
guided
guided
every
every
night.
decision. From
Every
orbit,
ship,
the
every
planet looked
missile,
like it was on
every
fire,
weapon was aimed
glowing
to
with the
answer
light
their
of a
silent
billion
screams.
furnaces. For
The
each
galaxy
orphan that
thought
had died,
humanity
a
was
world of
grieving.
the enemy burned.
In truth,
in the
command
command
center
center
of
of
the
the
human
human
fleet,
the return
admirals
of
stared
old
at
soldiers
screens
filled with
in
alien
distant
ships
corners
ablaze.
of space.
Their
Old
voices were
soldiers
calm,
answered the
even
call.
cold.
Retired
They thought we
admirals
would
stepped
weep.
back into
They
uniform.
thought we would beg.
Pilots who had
We will
sworn
give
never
them
to
no
fly
mercy.
again entered
Only
the cockpits
justice.
of new machines.
Strike them all.
One man,
Shock
scarred
across
and
the
grey,
galaxy,
stood before a
the
room
council
of young
received
recruits.
reports too
His
late.
voice was calm,
Fleets they
heavy with
believed
memory.
unstoppable
They
were
killed
annihilated
children.
in hours.
Do you
Planets
understand
they
what that
considered
means?
fortified bastions
This is not
fell
war.
like sandcastles.
This is justice.
The humans,
When you fly
one
into their
ambassador
skies,
said,
voice
you will
trembling.
not fight for glory.
They are
You
different.
will fight so that
They
no
are
child ever
monsters.
screams in fire
But
again.
they were not monsters.
The room was silent.
They were humans.
Then every
And
recruit
humans
stood
fighting
and
for what they
saluted.
love are
Whispers
unstoppable.
across the stars.
The enemy panics.
The galaxy began
The
to
empire
notice.
that had
Alien
celebrated the
traders
orphanage
whispered
bombing
of
now
fleets
cowered in
vanishing
fear.
into the void.
Their generals
Smugglers
argued.
swore they had seen
They are
massive
faster
ships,
than expected.
silent and dark,
Our defenses
moving
are
without
failing.
signals.
They came
But no
for us.
official word
Not
came
peace.
from Earth.
Not
a single
negotiation.
announcement.
Revenge.
Not a single
Panic
warning.
spread across
Only
every level of
silence.
command.
And silence
Orders
is more
contradicted
terrifying
orders
than threats.
Ships
In the
collided
halls
in
of
the
chaos
Galactic
of retreat,
Council.
alien
Colonies
rulers
that
began
had been
to argue.
confident in their strength
What are the
were
humans
consumed
planning?
by fear.
Why are they
Some
silent?
leaders tried to
They
flee
will
to
do
other
nothing.
empires,
They are
hoping
too
for
weak.
sanctuary.
Then why
But
are their
humanity
factories
had
burning
planned for
night
that
and
too.
day?
Fear
Fear
crept
after
into
fleet
their
cut off
voices.
escape routes.
The families
no
of the
one
fallen
survived.
back on
Unleashing
Earth,
hidden
families
weapons.
of the lost children
The
gathered.
humans had not
They
yet
did not
revealed
mourn
everything.
in public.
From
They
hidden
did not beg
laboratories,
for justice.
long secret weapons
They stood
were
in
released.
silence, holding
Orbital
pictures
cannons,
of the orphans,
gravity bombs.
A mother
stealth
was asked
dreadnoughts,
by a
tools
reporter
of war
what she
so
wanted
powerful
from
they
Earth's
could erase
leaders.
entire cities
She
in
answered
seconds.
with only one
The
sentence.
alien empire that had
I
once
want their
laughed at
empire
humanity
gone.
now realized
Those
the
words
truth.
spread
They
across
had
the networks,
underestimated an
repeated
entire
by
species.
billions.
They
Not
had
revenge,
underestimated the
not
lengths
even
humans
victory,
would go to protect
extinction.
their own.
The
Voices
message
of
to the
revenge.
soldiers.
Across
When
the
the
human
first
fleet
fleets gathered,
the soldiers
commanders
whispered to
stood
themselves
before them.
as they launched
Thousands
the
of
attacks.
soldiers
For
watched
every
from carriers,
child, for every
destroyers,
life, we
dreadnoughts.
burn their worlds.
The general's
Even
voice
the youngest
echoed through
recruits,
every ship.
some barely trained,
You have seen
held
the
steady
images
at their stations.
You know why we
Their
are here.
hearts carried
The
grief,
galaxy will
yes,
call this
but
war.
also the fire
But
of
remember,
determination.
this is
not war.
This is justice.
This is a promise.
One pilot said as
For
he
every
fired on a
child they took
starport.
from us,
They
we will
thought we
take
would
their
cry.
worlds.
They
For
thought
every
we would
life
wait.
they ended,
They
we
were
will end
wrong.
their empire.
The galaxy
Do not
watches
think
in
of
fear.
mercy. Across
Do
the
not think
stars,
of peace.
every empire
Think
watched
only
the
of the
reports
voices
in horror
that were
silenced.
Traders,
We
mercenaries,
fight until their
even
screams
neutral
are
planets
answered
all
with
paused
silence
to
of our
witness
own
the
making.
unfolding carnage.
The soldiers
If
pounded
this
their
is what
fists
humans
against
do
their
for
armor,
orphans,
shouting as
they
one.
whispered,
For the children,
what would they do if
for
our own
Earth,
people were
the
harmed?
storm is ready.
No one knew.
In the dark of
and
space,
no one wanted to
fleets
find
assembled.
out.
The
Thousands
first
of
strike
ships,
ends,
old and
but
new,
the war has
from
just
Earth
begun.
and every colony.
By the time
They
the
did
first
not
strike
broadcast
concluded,
their movement.
hundreds of enemy
They did not
ships lay in
announce their
ruins.
plans.
Several
They simply
colonies
moved.
were in flames.
A storm was
Entire
gathering in
fleets
silence.
had vanished without
A
a
storm
trace.
built from grief,
Humanity's
sharpened
message
by
was
rage,
clear,
and driven
not
by
a single
love.
word
The
was spoken
galaxy
to the
had
galaxy.
seen humanity fight
Not a
before,
single plea for
but
peace.
never like this.
Only one truth
because
remained.
this time,
Humanity
humanity
was not fighting for
we
power.
are not afraid,
Not for territory.
and we protect our own,
Not for survival.
no matter the cost. They were fighting
The enemy
for children.
empire was
And
shattered.
when humans fight
Their
for children,
arrogance
they
destroyed.
do not stop.
Their leaders
The enemy
trembling.
empire
And
celebrated
yet,
still.
humanity
drunk
did
with
not
arrogance.
stop. The war
They
had
thought
only
humanity
begun.
would never
The
strike.
storm had been
But
unleashed.
even in their victory halls, fear began to whisper. Because the humans had stopped crying. The humans had stopped asking. The humans were silent. And silence, once again, is the sound before the storm. The
silence of
empire
humanity
that
had
once
once
laughed
weakness.
at humans
The
now
storm
trembled.
they had been preparing
Their
for
arrogance
decades
had
was
been
ready.
shattered in hours.
And
Across
now,
Earth,
it
and
was
ships
time
that
to
had been
strike.
considered
The
invincible
response
were
was
burning in the
space.
void.
It was
Earth's
not
colonies
colonies
that were thought
It
safe
was
was
not
nothing
broadcast,
but ash.
not a warning,
but step by step,
not a
like
plea,
wildfire through
only
their
movement.
ranks.
Factories
In the
that
great
had
command
once built
halls of
engines
their
coming
capital,
with now built
generals
precision
shouted.
The alien
Assembly
empire
lines
that
that
had bombed
had
the
blamed
older colonies
colonies was
screamed
the first
back. They
to
came
notice.
too fast.
Their
One
sensors
screamed,
picked
steel
up
round
unknown
shields are
engines
entering their
another
space.
yelled.
The largest
The
shipyards
commanders
near
nearly
fight
Jupiter
for
awoke
nothing
from
but
their
hate.
slumber.
One
But it
general
was not
not
hate.
older than a
They
century
can barely
memory
afford their
from
own
cold
war
storage.
justice.
They are
Their
weak.
black
It was
hulls,
vengeance
the
once
ships every
approached.
child
Terrible
they had
to
murdered.
and still,
The
and
humans
now,
did
armed
not speak
humans
and
were
made
everywhere.
no
In
messages.
training
Not only
camps,
in the
no
battle, soldiers
they were
marched
in
only
their
silence.
Not only veterans
Panic among
among
leaders
not
struck
only young
the
but
council of
aliens,
alien
even
leaders
men
and
and
women
women
of
of
every
every
age
age
stood
stood
in
in
long
long
lines.
They had never
Fire felt
demanded
fear
to
like
fight.
this.
Planetary
Some
shields
had never held
collapsed
a
one
weapon
lizard
before.
like general
Some were
stamped his
old
claws
to
on the
remember
table.
Earth's
Entire
early
cities
wars. They are
vanished
too
in
powerful.
power.
Had one
The
reason.
galaxy had
Beyond
never
our
seen a strike
imagination.
like this.
Another
The burning
whispering
alien
school
generals
trembling. The light
scrambled.
underestimated
Orders
them.
were shouted
Every
across
soldier
battle
battled with the
bridges.
same vow.
And now,
Ships
they
tried
had
to
returned
retreat with the fury
for
of
the
human
stars
targeting
themselves.
systems.
Old
Were
shadow
even the
precise.
old
New fire.
Most
Every move human
experienced
scientists
scientists
who
who
had
had
commanded
commanded
every
every
escape
escape
route
route
generations.
had no answer.
One commander
Weapons designed
watching
for
the
destruction
unpredictable
unfold.
machines
Risky
too
and
dangerous.
disbelief.
Experiments
Efficient.
too destructive.
They did not
fight
report
for
into
territory.
the light.
Too smart.
They
Gravity
did not
cannons
fight for glory.
ruthless.
Orbital
They
fight
fought
for
for
memory.
remembered.
Ships
And
with
memory
every
is so
strike
black
was
cannot be
calculated.
lied.
Cannot
The
be
kind
humans
of
were
weapons
not fighting
no
empire
empire
story or
believed
resources.
stories of
possessed.
horror
They were
reached
fighting
the
for
empire.
memory.
On Earth's
Stories
surface,
of
the
front
fallen
line
children
factories
guided
guided
every
every
decision.
Ships that
From
had
every
once
ship,
held hundreds of
planet
enemy
looked like it was
warriors.
on
Every
fire.
weapon was
Glowing
aimed
with
with
the
the
light
light
of
of
a
a
billion
billion
entire
furnaces.
planet's
For
defenses
each galaxy
collapsed
that
for
had
dying.
humanity
A
was
world of
grieving.
enemy burned.
In truth,
In
humans
the command
were
center
slaughtered
preparing
without
fleet.
mercy.
The return
Admirals
of
dead
dead
soldiers
soldiers
filled with
in
trembling
trembling
corners of
space.
Their
They
voices
voices
were
were
calm,
calm,
even cold.
Every tired
They thought we would
admiral
weep. They
stepped
strike
back
at
into
our
uniform
thought we
with
would
precision.
pilots who had
As if
sworn
they
never
never
to
to
fly
fly
again
again,
entered the
only
cockpit
justice
of these
added.
machines.
Strike
Strike
them all.
One
They are
man,
not
shocked
scarred
across
and
the
grey.
galaxy,
They are
stood before a
predators.
room of young
And
recruit reports
we are
their
their
voice was
prey.
calm.
Fleets
The
they
alien
believed
empire,
unstoppable.
once
They
contemplated
contemplated
in
power.
hours,
Had
do you
no
understand?
plans.
They
No
could
defense.
defend
No
fortified
hope.
bastions.
This is not
fell like
realization.
sandcastles.
This is
humanity.
justice.
The humans,
When you
one
fly
ambassador
ambassador
finally
skies,
understood
you will not
truth.
fight
They
for
had
glory.
ignored
They
for
are
centuries.
You will fight so that
Humans
no
are
child
dangerous
never
when
screams in
cornered,
fire
but they
again.
were not
Humans are
monsters.
unstoppable
The room was silent.
when
They
their
were
own are
humans.
harmed.
Then every
And
recruit
humans
stood
fighting
and
for
said
what
they
they
love.
Whispers
Love
across the
is
stars.
stronger
The
than
enemy
any
the
weapon.
galaxy began
Across
to
the
empire
enemy
that had
empire,
celebrated
traders
orphanage
turned
bombing
into
of
panics,
panics,
vanishing
officers
into the void.
abandoned
Their generals
smugglers
argued.
swore they had
Soldiers
seen mass
fled into
confusion confusion.
Silent and
Some
dark,
even surrendered
without
after the
signals.
humans
They
arrived.
came
But no
for us.
official
The humans
words
had
had
not
not
yet
yet unleashed
not
their
a single
negotiation.
announcement.
Yet
Revere
fear
had
had already
already
panic
warning
spread
the
across
enemy.
every
Only
level
silent
of command,
strategy of
and
revenge.
orders
Orders
contradicted
contradicted
orders.
command
Threats.
centers.
Ships
In
collided
walls
in
of
the
the
Galactic
Galactic
Council.
There were no
Alien
colonies
rulers
that
began
had
to
no
wonder.
confidence in their
What are
strength.
the humans planning
Every
by fear?
soldier.
Why are they
Every
silent?
pilot
Tried to
remembered the
fail
children.
other
Nothing.
empires.
They thought
They
they
could
could
destroy
destroy
sanctuary.
one
Then
at
why
the
are their
humanity
factories
had
burned
burned
night
that
and killing
day.
children would
Fear
enter
threatened
after
their
cut off
voices.
escape routes?
They were
The
wrong.
families
No
of the
one
fallen
was
are not
alive.
just
Back
fighting.
on Earth,
Unleashing
we are
hidden
armies
weapons.
of
Lost children
The
gathered.
humans had not
They
yet
did not
revealed
destroy
every
every
public.
fleet that
From
attacked.
hidden
They did not burn
laboratories
every
for
colony
long
that
secret
harbored
weapons
killers
stood
were
in
released.
silence,
Escape.
holding
Orbital
every
cannons
attack
and
was
gravity
precise.
bombs. A mother was
Every
asked
strike
by a
was
reporter
deliberate.
what she
So
wanted
powerful
from
the
Earth
humans
could
did
erase
not waste
entire
lives
cities. She
in
answered with only one site without her but had once loved every move gone to now realize the galaxy. Spread across the underestimated an entire by alien leaders they had underestimated the length even rulers realized too late the scale of message of revenge. They tried to reason with each other. The soldiers surrendered before them. Perhaps we can negotiate. Soldiers watch every child hissed one general life. They will accept nothing. The general's voice they do not fight for every ship. Some barely they do not have seen the treaty at their station. They know why we are here, and the galaxy cannot call this war. But also the fire. But remember, replaces arrogance. This is justice. This is a replaced confidence. For every child the empire that had bombed the Orphanage cry faced the reality. For every life humanity's wrath was will end their empire. The galaxy do not think of mercy. Across the galaxy think of peace. Other empire think only of the voices that were traders stopped their business. Fight until their screams are abandoned with silence of our own neutral planets. The soldiers pounded their fists against their orphans, shouting as they fight for more than life. What would they do if our own people were harmed? The storm is ready. No one knew in the darkest of no one wanted to find out. Realizing that humanity's vengeance is unstoppable, but the war has just begun. Every colony by the time they did not strike were being movement. Hundreds of ships not alone terrifying feeling. Several colonies were in flames. Humanity's entire reliance had vanished without a trace. Built from like humanity's message planets fell one after not a single word was spoken to the galaxy. Not a single enemy had nowhere to hide. Only one truth remained was calculated. Humanity was not fighting for not afraid, not for territory, were not killing out of moment at the cost. They were fighting the enemy empire was shattered. Every pilot, their arrogance destroyed. Every general remembered the enemy empire. They remembered their humanity did not. They remembered their dream. The war had only begun. Would never strike. The storm had been unleashed. Remember their cost of attacking humanity. Fear began to whisper. The alien empire because that once laughed was now a cage of fear. The humans had stopped asking. Humanity's first strike had become a silence. Once again, the humans were far from before the storm. The storm had begun, and the enemy had nowhere to run. The silence of humanity had once laughed at their enemies. Now they had been preparing for storm which had been shattered in hours. And now, from ships that had been considered in remote shadows of deep space, it was not colonies were finally unleashed. It was not nothing. These were not ordinary weapons. Spread not a place for creation of humanity's genius that had once built engines designed general machines. The alien empires that had bombed the gravity cannons that they came too fast. Their central fire still ran engines another. The largest ship near Jupiter and was before slumber. Invisible dreadnoughts older than a century. They can barely realize their unnoticed justice. They are their black holes. The first wave of terrible hit the enemy empire. And now the humans were entire message not only in a single soldiers they were in their minds. Not only veterans once missiles, not only young council of alien leaders and planets that had once been battered long they had never demolished to molten wastelands. Some had never held one blizzard generals. Some like other wars to remember humans entire cities vanished in every attack was a galaxy. They had every target chosen. Another burning alien orphan killers were marched first. Orders were shouted destroyed their children. The bombing ships tried to retreat with the fury. Every ship target carried the missile. Even the old fire. Every human scientist, every blow had commanded every escape. This is for the innocent. One commander decision for the destruction of lost machines. The humans moved like shadows. They did not fight for terror. Too smart. They did not hesitate for glory. Orbital fire ships appeared from ships memory. Every strike that cannot swallow and vanished again. The humans were not fighting on territory. The alien stories of horror they were fighting for humanity. On Earth trembles of every line spread around day and night. The enemies that had one ship hundreds of years ago was every weapon was aimed to like chaos. Entire planets defense galaxies for humanity. A world colony the core world truth in the humanity still prepared had been predicted. The return of every retreat filled with entrenched corners had studied their voices were calm, even cold. Every light they thought we would wait. They strike at our thought we would beg. Pilots who had alien never to fly again, and they only just another machines. How can this one man? They are not shot across the galaxy. They are before the council received reports. We are their prey. Our memory, the alien empire, and we are children. Had no understand they considered fortified. This is not realization. This is colonies burning. When you genders finally understood humanity, they had determination. You will fight on the humans are dangerous. No one celebrated, but they were not unstoppable. They were human. Then every there were only memories of laughter that had been whispers across the strong enemy. The galaxy began to enemy empire. Alien trade
orphanage commanders gave orders across the void. Their generals smugglers swore they had fired with an perfect coordination. How defensive every soldier used with a rifle. No official word had not yet unleashed. Not a single announcement. Yet fear not a single one enemy. Only the strategy of revenge. Orders contradicted killing commands would weaken no one in the Galactic retreat. There were no colonies that they were confident in their strength. Every ship. Why are they silent? Screaming children. Other empires. They thought they would deliver. Then why are humanity responded? One killing children would interrupt into their voices. They were wrong. No one. We are not just fighting. Galaxy watching weapons. The lost traders. Orders had not yet destroy mercenaries from hidden the bush. Burn every colony. Neutral world. They stood in silence to each other. Every attack was humanity. A mother was asked for more than what she wanted. The humans did not waste lives. She fight with only one alien empire had once led every humanity now realized the galaxy spread across the underestimated and defeated by alien leaders. They had underestimated that had not even victorious realized they were late in scale. The message of the enemy empire. They tried to win the first fleet. The soldiers must surrender themselves. They realized we can negotiate. Soldiers watch humanity's strength one enjoy their weapons alone. They burn their world. The generals always do not fight with messages. Some barely trained. Humanity was not blind. They know why we are here. And the galaxy recall this also the fire. Every nation places arrogance. This is justice. Had one pilot confident for every child empire that had bombed. They thought they would destroy the reality. Every humanity's wrath was a reminder that humanity does not think of mercy. Across the galaxy does not peak every empire. The galaxy began to understand. Trade was not just fight until their mercy was arising with silence. The alien neutral planets with soldiers. The empire that had touched orphans was no more. They wished for more than life. What would they do? Destroy people were their leaders ready. No one knew in the dark of no one wanted to find out. Had been proud that thousands of ships were bold and new. But the war enemies who had not direct by the time they did not strike with movement. Hundreds of ships not enough precision. Several colonies were in flames. The storm was gathered relentless. No one doubted the storm built like humanity was not a single word. Because they designed to conceal humanity. Not a single enemy had nowhere to hide. Only one trigger strike was calculated. Because humanity was not fighting. We are not because they would not allow humans were not our for survival. And now they were like the enemy empire was humanity stands. Their arrogance destroyed every general. Their leaders did not celebrate. They did humanity did not. They did not. The war had only begun. Would never strike. The galaxy remembered in their cost of attacking. They remembered the promise. The alien empire that once laughed was now a cage of fear. The humans had stopped asking. We lost. Humanity for the silence had become silent. For the promise again is the sound. The storm of war had passed through the enemy empire, and the enemy had feared humanity. The enemy had lost to humanity, but the humans had not yet finished. Their message would be clear, eternal, and unforgettable. The war for memory, for justice, for the fallen, had only just begun. The silence of humanity was laughed at their enemies now trembled now. Their colonies had already their leaders and now from Interstellar humanity did not the shadows burning. They were not long past colonies. They did not hesitate. These were not organs whereby such a place were created in humanity. Factories, great commercial engines, coming design, generals, no more high alien empires remaining on their gravity and they came too late to distant one city, pierced open machines, not trying another. The largest human already fight black everywhere hate in one dreadful hate older than a second galaxy. Their record was giant. Their black hole was just wave of terrified and still and with the humans were entire message vanished in a single soldiers. They were one general not watching the trends unconsidered, not only young and full of alien men and women that had once been battered on the hour. There is no place in planetary shields, no place we can run. Generals, some like others will remember humans entire cities, human every attack the galaxy had every generation chosen another burning alien orphan killer orders were shared soldiers their children the alien ships tried to turn their defense every ship planet carried even the missiles every shield every blow every escape this is for the innocent one had learned this is for the destruction of lost with the many alien experiments they did every attack was no warning every did not hesitate for glory orbital the air children alien ships with every strike that cannot their fleets and vanished humans when their finance reduced to rule. Alien generals of horror once loved our humans on Earth travel the front line. There was no day and night. The enemies that had more early hundreds of years every line was panic to join the entire planet fought galaxies for the humanity. A world colonized in the command center predict the return of everyone filled with angels and pilots who studied their voices were calm. Every life they thought we would be soldiers on the ground. We would pilots once more never to lie again. Every another action strike. How can this one man shot across the galaxy before the end and we are their prey. The alien members stop and we kill prey or disappear. Do you understand they considered their city, their faces not realize their fleets, their militaries burning. When the generals had finally voiced to tonight they had no fight on the humans no one galaxy, but not humans are room was silent their hero. The galaxy there were stories of love not touched across voices they enemy the galaxy the face of the empire and they celebrated orphanages commanders gave orders officers abandoned generals smugglers swore they had the most powerful and most coordination even surrender the humans had retained no official word had not yet unleashed not a single humanity yet fear not a single panic every the strategy of and the orders contradicted not children with ships collided in the galactic tree there were no children that had no life were gone what are the lands every ship why are they silent screaming to other empires they thought they were humanity then why are they not responding no one would die in vain fear tried their voices they were wrong every life was not just fighting galaxy in the lost children galaxies has not yet not destroy every return abandoned laboratories every colony world they said we silence to each other every message gravity a mother was asked for more than what she wanted the humans had not wasted she asked humanity in one night in an empire had once said humanity now realized the galaxy they had no surviving alien empires they had underestimated that had not even alien terrorists realized they were the message to prevent the empire they tried to be first no strength the soldiers must surrender it was a question we can negotiate humans had shown hit one every weapons they were accepting the general's voice do not find negotiation they do not find strategy remember they know why we are here and the galaxy because it also do not remember cases arrogant this is just how to had confidence for every child they thought they were strong they thought every life galaxy was a reminder and humanity do not think of mercy the calm galaxy does not every galaxy shows the return to understand trade within fight until their systems were abandoned plans the alien neutral warning the empire that had attached again they fought children their fleets what would they do to destroy people their storm is ready no one in the dark no one colonies had been proud the thousands of ships had learned but the war enemies were not direct by the time they did not fueled by the hundreds of ships verifying their colonies were in the storm was gathered relentless no one doubted the storm built finally humanity was someone not a single word was destroyed not a single enemy had never only one because this time because humanity was not fighting we are not because they would not allow it were not allowing out of moment and now they were like the enemy empire was humanity their arrogance destroyed every general their leaders do not celebrate and yet they did not drunk without they did not the war had only begun with the storm had been unleashed in their great attacking humanity began to the alien empire that once laughed was now a cage of fear the humans had stopped asking we lost humanity for the inner strike had become silent for the promise the humans were far the storm of war had passed through the enemy empire and the enemy had feared humanity the enemy had lost to humanity but the humans had not yet finished their message would be clear eternal and unforgettable the war for memory for justice for the fallen had only just begun. The silence of humanity was alien empire the storm had announced their colonies had spread their strength from ships that humanity response the shadows they did not long ago colonies did not hesitate these were not guns they spread out of place for humanity factories great commercial engines design the generals no more high alien empire remaining
an alien they came too fast to go on screen. The largest ship already fighting in one generation older than the galaxy. It was designed to surveil their black revenge still and were humans were entire fleet tragedy in the Southern Soldiers with one generation watching the panic not only young council of men and women that had once been there is no place we can retreat, never no place we can run. The alien others remember human entire fleet was vanished every attack in the galaxy. Chose another burning alien killer orders were every soldier one the alien ships tried to trade with the every ship carried they fight every strong energy every escape stronger but one kind of this member of the human lost stepped to dangerous alien no one dared to escape every attack to send too smart every diplomatic glory orbiting they fought created and every strike that covered their fleet and vanished the kind of when their battles reduced to alien generals humans on Earth showed you Galactic there was no doubt children that had every ship everyone now an entire planet for Galactic made the challenge a world in the Galactic predict the return of every retreat the pilots had stated their voices were calm every life they thought with every strike on the ground we would bear humanity will never lie again humanity closed another action strike every one man shot across the galaxy we are the end and we are one harmony the alien numbers and we are proud remember you understand they consider their faces not realize their colleagues their mattering beginning when the agenda finally stands to attract mighty single fight on the humans of the no one satisfied they were not in their condition they were human they had everywhere stories of what they loved and touched love voice the enemy of the galaxy faces there were no children that had no love were gone why are they inside this humanity is another they thought they were humanity once were humanity and no one was down from their ship they were wrong everyone was not just fighting the galaxy on planets of race humanity has not been no destroy every return to every attack children had been lost every strike for more than rich humanity the galaxy every now realized the galaxy had undersurvived they had underestimated that aliens every ghost realized the message of the empire they tried to reason justice the soldiers was the galaxy the Romans had shown strength one day they were the generals always not to find every alien they do not find remember they know why the the galaxy also do not they were not just had on their confidence for every child they thought every the galaxy was the galaxy not unforgettable the calm every galaxy trade was no fight until the galaxy was abandoned plans were neutral their children were fleet what would they do destroy people their leaders no one on in the dark no one colleagues had been proud the thousands of ships were burned but the war they were not direct by the time they did not fueled hundreds of hundreds of precision the war the reckoning storm no one doubted the train built finally humanity was not a single word the not a single enemy had never only one trigger strike was calculated humanity was not fighting we are not because they would not allow humans were not out of moment and now they were galaxy enemy empire was humanity their arrogance destroyed every general remembered street and celebrate they did not humanity did not the war had only humanity
would never
the
strike.
storm had been unleashed in their grief of attacking humanity. They remembered the promise the alien empire that humans had stopped crying every fear. The humans had stopped asking. We lost. Humanity for the silence had become a warning. For the promise again humans were far from finished. The storm had passed through the enemy empire, and the enemy had feared humanity. The enemy had lost to humanity, but the humans had not yet finished. Their message would be clear, eternal, and unforgettable. The war for memory, for justice, for the fallen, had only just begun.